Since the dawn of time, man has wanted for one thing, and one thing only. To reach for the infinite universe above them. That simple perfection that we simply cannot reach. But we can't, simply by how we are born. Us and our human flabby skin, we simply cannot do it. But that's okay. Sometimes imperfection is the ultimate perfection. Unless you're Adam gosh darn Warlock. Listen, you might not be shit, and you might never be shit, unfortunately, but that's okay, because so long as you live in the same universe as Adam Warlock, he will heal you, he will resurrect you, he will do everything to make sure peace is sustained in the universe. And haven't you ever wanted to play as Adam Warlock, to become the man himself? Well, thanks to the people over at NetEase Games, we are allowed to become him. We can become the perfect human. We can reach for the stars with no mobility, unfortunately, but we can walk there at a normal pace thanks to a game that has just come out named, of course, Marvel Rivals. Now, I don't have to tell you what Marvel Rivals is, you're watching this video because you know what Marvel Rivals is. Now, I'd like to direct your attention behind me, not to this wonderful rocking chair, but to these statistics. If you look at them, if you look at time played, you may realize that, I play a lot of this guy. And in fact, I have the icon, the Lord icon for him. So, I feel I might know what I'm talking about when I say this. But there is no need to fret, as I am here to teach you some of my tricks that will help you get MVP every round in Marvel Rivals. This is a Lunatics guide to Adam Warlock. Warlock tip number 1. Adam has two different types of fires. His primary, which goes dink, 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 and his secondary, which you charge it up and you shoot out 5 little balls. Now, you should be using your secondary fire as much as humanly possible. And you are superhuman, by the way, because although his normal fire is very, very good, because unfortunately, his primary fire has an almost comedic amount of damage fall off. So you want them to be right in front of you, sniffing your butthole, and you are going to crit them like 3 times and they're gonna die. Because 3 crits is all it takes for a squishy to die. That's how good his primary fire is. And by the way, that's like maybe 2 seconds. Now I know that may sound great, like why don't you use the primary fire? Well, it's because this game is a very burst damage heavy game. If you aren't bursting down somebody, they will be healed to full. Do you realize how many abilities can like almost fully heal somebody to the max HP they can have? It's insane. So what you need to do is to use your charge attack. Now this is surprisingly very, very good, and it is limited in a certain way because you can't crit with it. I've learned this time and time again, and though it doesn't say it on the label of the skill, you cannot crit with the skill. Because if you could, it'd be the most overpowered skill in the game. So it's important that you use that. Even though it can't crit, if you get all 5 shots, that person is almost 1 click away. 1 critical headshot away from dying if they're squishy. And for a tank, you're just laying into them. And the best part is, it has no damage fall off. You can just unload it. You can just unload it. It's a projectile, while the primary is a hit scan. And while it's good when they're up close, you need the hit scan. But from far away, and there's a lot of stuff going on, believe me, Rivals has a bunch of little fancy abilities and stuff, you can just unload into their backline. And you don't really gotta worry about it. Warlock tip number 2. Don't be afraid to use your healing on yourself. Your healing is probably the best healing in the entire game. For single button press, you get the most amount of healing in the entire game. Besides like ultimates, but we're not counting those. If you're getting backlined and there's a Chinese man or a sword woman or a spider guy trying to mess you up, don't be afraid to hit the heal button. You can heal yourself to almost full. And even in a team fight, when your healing locks onto somebody, you can just look down, click the heal button, and you will go to almost immediately full HP. And I can tell you the most demoralizing thing of all time is when you are in the enemy's backline, trying to attack their supports, and then their supports immediately get all their health back. And that is what you're going to do to them. You're going to demoralize the enemy. And not only that, you're probably going to win the fight. Or you're going to make them come crawling back to mommy so they can get her to dance all over their booty cheeks, okay? Listen to me. Even at the cost of your team's life, save yourself. You are more than your team, especially if you have your ult. Screw your team. You are Adam Warlock. You are the support. You are the DPS, and you're the tank. So don't let anybody go and tell you you can't be all three. Warlock tip number 3. Use your cocoon. Now, unfortunately, the strategy that I'm about to tell you doesn't really work if you don't have one thing, and that is friends. And I'm sorry if you don't have those. You should consider investing in some. But if you do, this works amazing. When you get killed, you will go into your cocoon form. Now, enemies will be very aware when you're cocooned, and they will follow you. Now, interestingly enough, if there's no teamfight going on, if you sit there in front of the whole enemy team, they will come up and just stare at you and harass you. But you know something? Their arrogance will make them come over and start just staring you down. But it's quite simple. You get an ally to use their ult when they're all focused around you. I have a friend who plays Jeff the Landshark. W him, by the way. And he makes a cool strategy where he will eat up everybody and then throw them off the ledge. But sometimes you can't get everybody. So it's quite simple. You pull out the tastiest bait you can. A cocooned Adam Warlock. Because you know he ain't escaping when he revives. It's a very devious tactic, but it could win you even if it just gets a few people. A good Iron Man ult, a Hela ult, anything. Anything that can surprise somebody, a whale. If you have a Namor friend, which if you do, consider killing them, because they're a bad person. But if you do, consider the whale. Warlock tip number 4. Use his soul bond preemptively. You want to get as many people in this soul bond as possible, because it literally can save so many lives. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have had friends survive on 1 HP because the damage they would have taken that would have killed them has gone to me. Now, soul bond is an interesting ability as it has like a 30-second cooldown, and it even gives a little bit of a regen. So having your whole team on it will make them all almost nigh invincible for as long as there is another person soul bonded that has extra health to use. And that can be very, very, very useful. Or it can cook your entire team if an ult gets used on you. But so long as that doesn't happen, it's just an amazing ability that you should be using in every team fight. It is the difference. It can make the difference, and it normally will be the difference. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. Trust me. Warlock tip number 5. Don't hesitate to use his Resurrect for only a single ally. You don't need to hold on to his Resurrect for the entire game and wait for all your teammates to die. No. For a team fight, if even one ally dies, consider using it. Consider leaving the team fight, going around a corner, and using it. Because by the time you're behind that corner, your team no longer has an extra healer. Especially if the person that died is a healer, because typically there's only 2 of you, and that means the whole rest of your team is on borrowed time. Use the ability, resurrect that teammate, and then there's probably going to be another death because you're not out there supporting, and then they get resurrected. And now you can all go back in the team fight, and anybody else who dies for about 5 seconds can also get revived and go straight back into the team fight. Now, by doing this, you're also going to lure out a lot of enemy ultimates, and hopefully you can save the day by ulting behind enough cover that you can still be in the team fight even after an Iron Man uses his and wipes out like half your team. Warlock tip number 6. Try to wait for your allies to get to critical HP before healing them. Your healing is on a cooldown, and although it has 2 charges, it is 8 seconds per charge, and it's important to be able to wait for them to get critical, because actually there is a thing where you get more healing if they are in critical when you heal them. So if they're in critical and you heal them, they can go straight up to full. I'm not kidding. It's kind of impressive, but also you toe the line of if you don't have a good reaction time and you miss the heal, they will die, and they will probably blame you. But if you can pull this off, you get a lot more value out of your healing, and you will probably have your healing up when you need it the most, for either yourself, for your tank, for your DPS, for anybody. And most importantly, your teammates will glaze you, because they'll be like, oh, I'm almost dead, and then when you heal them, they'll be like, oh, thanks, man. And then they will start doing things to you that you enjoy, like praising you, or, you know, things. I'm not gonna tell you what's what. Additionally, since you have 2 charges of healing, you should always have it on cooldown. You should always use one and then have it recharging. If even your ally took a little bit of HP, use it. You just need a second one that you should be using for critical situations. You should always have the first one on cooldown though. That will give you the immense, ultimate amount of value on your healing. And if you can balance that and balance healing people on critical, you can get the most out of healing, and you will get 20 to 30k healing games. And those make you feel amazing. When you are an Adam Warlock and you're healing more than like a Luna Snow or a Cloak and Dagger, you know you've done good. Warlock tip number 7. Bit of ASL in case that's ASL, in case you couldn't tell. Consider letting your fellow Guardians die. I know this may sound harsh, but the team up with Star-Lord and Mantis allows them to revive themselves. And if you have to decide between healing somebody else who isn't Star-Lord or Mantis, or Star-Lord or Mantis, and you know they have the revive up, and you know one of them is going to die if you don't heal them, you heal the other person, because they can get back in the fight after they resurrect themselves. Now, a bit of a caveat to this, you should always try to keep your other support alive. Now, I know I just said let Mantis die, but, you know, also try and keep her alive as much as possible, because your cooling is not your cooling. Your healing is on cooldown, but her healing is not on cooldown. Adam is the only support in the game with his healing on a very significant cooldown. So if you don't have it up, you're just going to watch your teammates die. I've watched it again and again. That's why it's good to preserve your healing, but if you still run out of healing, you need that other healer to do their job. Warlock tip number 8. Sometimes it's better to just resurrect yourself in the middle of a team fight. If you get downed in the middle of a team fight, sometimes it's better to just immediately click the revive button. Because most of the time, your teammates and the enemy are all going to be fighting each other anyway. They're not going to try and single you out. Although, you should, if you're in their team, at least come back to your team and then revive in the middle of your team. That is probably what you should do. If you died because you're too far inside of them, you've got your own issues, and you should learn a bit about game sense. But you should also come back and resurrect in your team, and then get back in the team fight. Unless the only reason you would want to walk away is if you were going to immediately use his resurrection on the whole team. That is the only reason you should not be going immediately reviving yourself in a team fight. In a team fight scenario alone, I should clarify. Only in a team fight scenario. Outside of that, you're free to do as you will. Do the cool cocoon strat and kill all the enemies. Warlock tip number 9. When getting backlined by a Chinese man or a sword woman or even a what is it? Oh yeah, Spider-Man. Attempt to fight back. Fight back, heal, and by the way, juke. You can very easily juke these characters. Many people can't aim at all. If you get right up in their business, they can't aim. Now it is important that you should be pinging them while they're attacking you, so hopefully your teammates can come and help. Because if you're not on comms with the whole team, like I'm not with the whole team, I play with a few people, but I don't play with the whole team, you need to be able to ping, 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 ping that there is a iron fist literally fisting you in the back. And you need to get some help. Although it should be said, you can win that fight. 3 dinks to the head and you win that fight. Trust me, don't be afraid. And in regards to that, use your charged attack. Use it. Trust me, you can win those. Don't be afraid. Don't back down. Give them the fight they want. Give them the fight they want, because it will be so demoralizing when you beat their sorry ass and now they have to do the King's Row walk back. Okay? However, if you are facing a tank in your backline, which if that is the case, your team's got some weird issues, so you're probably not getting any help. If you're facing like a Hulk or a Thor, this really only works if you're facing a melee-based tank. Run into them. I know this may sound crazy, but if you kind of grab onto them and then go around in a circle, you can dodge a lot of bullets, surprisingly. If you've ever played Dead by Daylight, which if you have, I'm sorry for your loss, you can do a little survivor tech called a 360, where you move in one way and you twist your camera in another way. And it makes your hitbox so janky that the person playing Hulk or Thor or whatever will try and hit you and just be out of range. And then if they do go, oh wait, I'm missing this, why don't I go a little bit in front of them? The moment they do that, and you realize they've done that, you just go the other direction. You just go the other direction. I've done this so many times, it has saved my life numerous times. So many times this has saved my life. It is impressive just how little melee tanks can actually aim. It's just impressive. Even medium range tanks. Now, I have seen on a couple occasions that a tank will literally just stop moving and walk backwards so they can have a better view of you doing your little funny little dance. And if they do that, back up so you can back away from them, and then they will walk forward so they can continue to hit you, and then you go back into them and you hit them with the rigmarole again. Trust me, I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. Believe me, but it works. It works. It just works. Warlock tip number 10. Adam, unfortunately, has no mobility. So you need to not be a character that is using mobility or acts like you're using mobility. You need to take high ground, you need to take vantage points, and you need to use them. That is what you need to do. You need to take a slight ledge advantage, and you need to use that to the best of your ability. And if you don't have one of those, consider creating one. Thing is about Marvel Rivals is that almost all terrain is damageable in some way. There's so many walls that if you hit it a couple times, you can peek through, you can make a little peeky hole, and then you just unload into the team, the enemy team. And once they find you there, yeah, they're gonna come for you, or they're just gonna think you're a nuisance and try and brush you off. That's when you just walk away. And now you have a enemy that is no longer on point coming for you, which means you can go all around and go to point instead. You gotta play the mind games. Even if it's just a nuisance amount of damage, you can do so much by being a nuisance. So much. And you can be one as Adam Warlock if you know what you're doing. Consider being a nuisance. Now, here's a bit of a bonus tip. A final bonus. One that doesn't particularly have to do with the game. Be kind to those around you. Be the Adam Warlock the Marvel Rivals wants you to be. Tell your team you love them. Tell your enemy you love them. Tell the world you love them. Remember, life is short, so be kind to one another. Because who knows? You may just get a second chance.
Born again!